A glimpse of morning on the streets of post-war Liverpool here on BBC4 in an hour's time. But first, Jackie Ashley follows in her father's footsteps back to Hartlepool, where so many people are still waiting for work.
The people of West Hartlepool are very friendly people. They have a fine spirit, get together, enjoy themselves. The town is not a new town, but has all the amenities we want. But we also have our black spots like anywhere else, when there's been slum clearance. But we also have our good spots. We've had the estates, well planned, well laid out estates, fine schools, and a very good community spirit among the people. But in the past we've always relied upon the engineering industry, steel and shipbuilding. And in shipbuilding, we've some of the finest craftsmen in the country. The local shipyard held the blue ribbon for the most number of ships built in the past. And these people are really grand workers. Stick together, work together, live together. And when unemployment came, you found all of these people just left hanging in midair.
It used to be a busy yard, throbbing with life and vigor. But now there are only idle berths, idle machines, and idle men.
It was a big shock when you work years at a place and then suddenly seeing your livelihood going. It is a real shock. I mean, it's a little bit undescribable. It sort of knocks you for six, if we could put it that way.
Had you and your wife been worrying about the possibility of this happening?
Well, from previous rumours, we had discussed the situation, but of course we just hoped that things would turn brighter and be able to carry on, that the firm would carry on, but it didn't just turn out that way.
Were you optimistic about the prospects of getting another job?
Well, at first, we all live in hope, and I was one of them, being an optimist, and I had hoped that things would come the right way, but as time goes on, well, hope gradually fades away. And when you see the number of people that's out of work in this area, well, it just about finishes it off altogether.
To the unemployed, the labour exchange becomes a focal point. It draws together the 3,660 people in West Hartlepool who are waiting for work. Signing on at the exchange replaces clocking on at factory or shipyard. It's a ritual to be observed twice a week, every week, but one which ensures a basic income. To 1 in 9 of the town's working population, the labour exchange is now a source of funds, a source of hope, and a source of disappointment. For every vacant job, there are more than 40 applicants. Yet, despite this, many still wait optimistically for news of a vacancy from the manager, Miss Saville.
I suppose they're optimistic, but in the light of the last 2 or 3 months, it's difficult for them to sustain it.
What do you do when you have a few jobs? Do you offer them to everyone or just to the lucky few?
No, we try to give as many of them an opportunity of being interviewed as possible, but we have the interest of the employer to consider. So we try to select half a dozen, or depending on the number of jobs, of the most suitable people. But we do try to give them all a turn.
Many unemployed people have told me that queuing for dole is a humiliating experience. Is there any way you can cut down the length of waiting for dole?
Well, I think we do really cut it down as far as we can. We have a timing system where we use the whole of the day by quarters of an hour. We try to time as many into a quarter as we can deal with, and no more than we can deal with. And we use 2 days of the week instead of 1, which we would use in normal circumstances. We pay both on Thursdays and Fridays.
Well, is there any way you can improve the amenities for the people who have to wait?
Well, no, I've got the building that was built for the job. But if the numbers should get too much, of course, I would have to take an outhouse and use that.
Aren't you able to put seats or chairs or pictures in the building?
Well, we have some seats, as many as we think can be used, but our object is not to keep people waiting, it's to deal with them and get them out.
Not only manual workers are unemployed in West Hartlepool. Brian West is a white-collar worker. He was a booking clerk in a local factory.
Well, I studied 2 years at a commercial school, and I wrote shorthand. I still write shorthand at 180 words a minute. I've typed about 45. I've got advanced bookkeeping, and I've done a course of business management. And I've passed Royal Air Force education tests when I was in the Royal Air Force.
He hasn't used any of these skills for 8 months. His qualifications are valueless assets when there are no jobs available. But he has acquired a new skill since losing his job. The household chores are his responsibility while his wife's out working. She assumes her husband's role of wage earner while he becomes housewife. Washing, ironing, cooking, caring for the children.
I have to do all that myself. It's a job to start of the morning by dressing them. I feed them in for the breakfast and at lunchtime, but my wife does help to get them ready for bed at night.
Who decides on your budget?
Well, I've got to do, with me doing the shopping, I've got to spread out the money, the little bit of money we have, on food. But otherwise, my wife does more or less tell me what to get in, etc., each day. We do the shopping from day to day, not bi-weekly.
On what little luxuries you can afford, say drink and tobacco if you smoke, who decides on how much is allocated for things like that?
Well, we both decide that together. We don't drink and we can't get out. We can't afford luxuries, naturally. We do smoke a little bit, but it is very few.
How did the children react to you being mum, as it were?
Well, they were very strange to me at first, but they have gradually come used to me and they look forward to the mother coming in at night from work.
How far does it embarrass you that your friends know that you're an acting housewife here?
Well, it is an embarrassment having to run over and do all messages and one thing and another, and they often say to me, how do you manage and one thing and another, but I just have to put up with it and we do the best we can.
Mrs. West, do you like working now?
Yes, I do, but of course I would rather be, at home and my husband having a job.
Do you feel more independent now that you're working?
Well, I don't really, because, well, I think that it's up to her husband to go out to work, for him to have a job and then go out to work.
If your husband got a job, would you stop working?
Well, if it was a really good job with good pay, I would, but really I would rather work on till about 6 months or so, just to get a bit of money behind it,
How has the attitude of the children changed to you while you're out at work? Has it changed at all?
Well, I don't think so, not really. But at first they were a bit upset, I think, they missed me. As soon as I got in the door, they were straight up, the face lightened up and that, and said, oh, Mummy, I'm glad to see you, and all this,
Despite unemployment, the vigorous gaiety of social life in West Hartlepool goes on, but without the unemployed. None of them go without the necessities of life, but the dole doesn't provide for luxuries that most people take for granted. Staying away from the pubs and clubs involves no material hardship. It's one of the many economies affecting social life that the unemployed just have to make. Careful shopping, too, becomes essential when there's money for little more than necessities.
As a shopkeeper, I find the effects of unemployment in West Hartlepool small but revealing ways. The customer of mine will come into the shop while he's working, buy his kiddies a bag of sweets, then he seems to disappear for a while, and then he completely arrives back, and instead of buying his usual bag of sweets, perhaps a penny bar of chocolate, just so his children are getting something. And then you have the lady customer, the wife of the unemployed chap. She normally comes in and buys one or two women's books and their children's comics, and then you find that she cuts their books out and the children still get their comics.
Well, the main effect the unemployment in the town is having on my business is that I find the customers appear to make the hair, or try to make it last a little longer. When they do eventually come in, they say, well, you better make it a bit shorter, Tom. And I cut it shorter for them. Sometimes I want it shorter in the neck, thinning out, so it'll last a bit longer than usual, you know. And, of course, I get the odd occasion that they're so desperate for a haircut, they want to go somewhere, they get an amateur to do it. And then they come in with a big muffler on or something and say, for God's sake, Tom, can you put this right for me? And there have been occasions when some of the women have been really waiting for the husband's pay packets, and they've asked me, well, I can't send the lad down till Friday, so I said, well, send him down at the early part of the week when I'm not so busy, and he can send the coppers down on the Friday. I mean, as steel workers, they've stopped the mills on a Thursday down here. There's no steel workers working after Thursday. Well, I mean, those chaps who used to be regular customers of mine, there's such a lot of them now, they just put off that extra time, they wait longer, and when they come in, they want it to last longer. I mean, as a matter of fact, I just spoke to the wife the other day. I said, I think, well, if it goes on like this, and it does continue to go down, I'm going to pack in, get a spare time job, and just open the shop at weekends.
A little trimming here and there is not enough to make up the loss of a weekly wage. For families with children, the major problem is meeting needs which remain constant whether work's available or not. An unemployed man receives 2/5 of the average weekly wage, together with family allowances and national assistance when necessary. What kind of adjustment does he have to make?
Well, I've been unemployed now for 4 months, and unemployment pay is £6.19, and we get a little bit from the public assistance, which is 28 shillings, and but it's pretty difficult now to more or less manage with the money we're getting at the moment.
How does that compare with the money you used to get when you were working?
When I was working, it's a big drop. It's quite a big drop. I was getting about £20 a week at the job I was working at, and well, it's just about £8, 7 shillings we're getting clear coming into the house at the moment, and well, it's a vast drop altogether.
Have you got any other sources of income in addition to the £8.7?
None at all, except that, well, we've got milk tokens, and it's free dinner for one of the lads that's at school, and that's just about it.
Did you have any savings when you finished work?
Yes, I did have a little bit, but most of that's gone now, and well, more or less have to scrape through.
What direct hardship is involved? How does it basically affect you?
Well, I like to smoke. I used to like to go out for a drink, but I can't go out for a drink at all now, and me and my wife used to go out regularly, at least 2 or 3 times a week. We can't go out at all now, and well, the bairns sort of feel it in a way, because you can't give them sort of more or less ice cream, sweets, things like that. You can't give them as many as you would like to, or shoes and things like that. If I mean, more or less now they're starting to run out with the shoes a little bit, and well, we'll have to buy them some more, and I don't know, well, I don't know how we're going to manage with the money. We just have to try.
Do the shoes all go at the same time, and the clothes and things like that, or do you have separate problems with the 4 kiddies?
Well, there are separate problems, of course, but more or less when we buy for one, we try to buy for the other, and more or less it does come in one big heap. Otherwise, there's other odd little odds and ends that one of them may need at times, but more or less it comes at one big jump.
Have you reached the stage yet of pawning things?
Pawning things? No, not as bad as that yet, no.
Apprentices don't have family responsibilities, but these boys